I love this profession. You know, it's a fun profession. It can be exciting. Compliance sucks. How can we make it exciting? Is there videos that can be done? I know a few years ago when you were getting my site in order with disclosures, you went over and showed me Tim Ferriss's site, and he had all these cool little pictures and stuff. Can we do stuff like that with income claims or anything to make it more enjoyable for the actual person?
Okay, so here's what our firm has done. We have a video module that companies can integrate into their software. When somebody enrolls in a business, they're met with 20 minutes of training. 20 minutes is not a long time, I understand, but it's enough to introduce them to the subject matter.
Sure.
And we try to do it where it's not boring. To my competitor's credit, Kevin Grimes, he has a training module as well.
Yeah.
It's a very thorough, very long module, and he does a good job. It's hard because when a prospect enrolls in the business, they don't want to be talked to by a lawyer in a suit and tie and all that stuff. So at least me personally, I try to make it interesting. And then there's the follow-up. Okay, so you train them day one. You can't just check the box. Okay, they're trained.
Right.
It's a continuous process. Are you sending newsletters out? Are you making contact with people that are violating the policies? Right? Are you keeping a history of those contacts and of those occurrences? So it's essentially when a company gets called to the carpet by a regulator, you're going to have to demonstrate that your compliance department was effective. Period. Hopefully, you never have that issue. Hopefully, if you're a company, you never have to defend yourself and how you conduct your business. But if you do, you will have to show that you tried. And so the newsletters, the reports, are you trolling the web for search terms to catch the bad behavior? Those sorts of things, it's very important.
See, that's interesting because I cut my teeth in this industry on the very high side, very regulated, the A.L. Williams Primerica organization. So we went through SEC training, we had to go through the insurance company training, we had state training. We were taught to be cautious on what we said. We couldn't guarantee percentages of interest rates, we couldn't do all this stuff. And yet the average side of direct selling, they don't have that, but yet the regulations seem to be almost as strict as if they were.
They expect a lot. Now, if you have one rep making an inappropriate claim on Twitter, is that the end of the world? No. I think, and this is based on my experience, a regulator will target a company that it thinks has problems. And it really starts with product. If you're selling $1,000 lemonade, right, the only reason people are buying it is to make money, right? The motive is in the wrong place. So if there's a lot of consumer complaints and if the product is not marketable, the FTC is going to find what it needs to support its argument. And then they'll throw in inappropriate income claims. Every pyramid case they've filed in the past 20 years, they've referenced inappropriate income claims as well. They can find things out there, just like they did in the Fortune High Tech case, to support their argument.
Well, and there's always disgruntled former reps. I've learned this, and especially watching Fortune High Tech, because there were a lot of people that had left that company that have gone on to do great things in other companies. No foul. They've gone. They've done. But there's some people that are just angry, and they were out there making noise, and some of it looked pretty legit. I mean, they had some pretty legit reasons, but that just exacerbates the situation. Because if a regulator's looking for anything, then just like humans, we're gonna tend to flow towards the people that agree with us, not the people that disagree with us. Now, how do you take care of a former rep that's out there making noise like this? Is there a way that you can communicate in a good way, not maybe necessarily going to court, but...
Well, certainly minimizing noise is crucial because the more noise there is about a company, obviously it draws attention, it draws scrutiny. So if I were to advise a client or a company, if there is a rep that's disgruntled and they want their money back, give them their damn money back.
Makes sense.
Period. It doesn't matter if they're asking for their money back 2 years after they were in the business. Just make the expense and give the money back because you want happy people out there. And people that are emotional and angry, they have a tremendous amount of energy. And whatever amount of refund that they want, it's far less than the damage that person can do when they're upset. Now, there are some people out there that are insatiable. They don't want a refund. They feel it is their crusade. It is their God-given purpose to bring this company down. And when that happens, there's not a lot you can do unless that person crosses the line, right, and accuses the company of a crime or slander, defamation. You can get them for tortious interference and potentially sue them, right? But now when you sue these people, you've got to be willing to defend your model publicly.
Oh, big time, yeah.
And so some companies, they might not be in a position to cork off a lawsuit because they don't want to deal with the scrutiny.
Well, and that brings me to another question. And really, maybe it's a statement, but in the old days, if you took a Fuller Brush, a Shackley, even Amway in the old days, they created these really good products. And because they were not having the advertising dollars of traditional marketing that was out there, they put together not just a good product. A lot of them were really condensed product where you could use, I mean, you just got massive loads of laundry or whatever the case is. And, and the phrase or the marketing we used to use was the
cost
fact
per
that
use.
Absolutely. It made sense. We're getting paid. There's good money, da-da-da. I still hear that being used with $1,000 jugs of lemonade and juice and everything else. What can we do to combat that? What can we do to try to bring that, not overhype the products?
Troy, I really do not know. I've sort of, I have called for tougher standards in the industry to sort of raise the bar, because there are companies out there that are selling $1,000 lemonade. It's just reality. And Ernest Shackleton, who's a guy I admire very much in history, he was a famous explorer, and he set out to explore the last frontier. I'm not talking about outer space for you Trekkies out there. He wanted to explore Antarctica. And he got his ship stuck in ice, go figure, and he was out there for close to 2 years with 22 people. They all survived. He was a tremendous leader, and the end of the story was amazing. I mean, he truly was a hero. Him and 2 other people set out, and they did a certain hike to find help, and he made it.
Wow.
And he said that, you know, you can't ignore the rules.
Right.
The rules in life matter a great deal. But you can't just focus on winning either. Okay? You can't just focus on winning. You need to focus on winning honorably.
Sure.
And in this space, you know, winning is typically measured by dollars. Okay? How much money is that company making? How much money is that company making? But really, are they doing it honorably? And a lot of them are. But the reality is the government is only so big, they can't shut down all the bad guys out there.
Right.
There's a lot of companies doing it dishonorably. So as a profession, you know, what I'm seeing, what's encouraging to me, is that leaders are getting more picky.
They are.
Right? Leaders are getting educated. They know what to look for in a good company. Now, there's still a lot of scams, right? There's still a lot of .com Ponzi schemes out there, my goodness. There's still a lot of problem companies out there. But leaders are getting picky, they're getting educated, they know what to look for. And, you know, the DSA standards, are those good enough? I don't think they're good enough. Lynn Clements is leading an effort called the AMM.
Yeah.
I'm a board member of that. And the point is to recognize the top achievers in the industry.
He wouldn't make me a board member, I don't know.
I'll talk to him about that.
Yeah.
And the idea is to have a really high bar, and if a company meets it, great, it gets recognized. If it doesn't matter who they're paying, it doesn't matter what association they're a part of. And so maybe efforts like that, hopefully that'll help.
Well, I'd like to see it help, because I do think that the more I travel around the country, the more I talk with attorneys, I talk with company owners, vendors. Even Stuart Johnson this year made one of his conferences raising the bar, you know, because I do think that that is the tone that's there. Now, whether all of our associations realize that yet or not, or even if Washington realizes that or not, we really do want to raise the bar, which means we have to become more self-policing than we have in the past. We cannot look a blind eye to a situation when it's taking place. We need to address it. We need to talk about it. You know, if we want to take a biblical approach, call the people up and talk to them first before we go public. I'm understanding that, but we can't any longer do this, because I've heard people say, yeah, I knew that company was going to go down. You know, well, then why didn't you say something? Why don't you help the people? You know.
Yep, and I was guilty of that. I mean, it's hard in this space because the law is vague. The first thing I did when I started my practice, I published an ebook about saving the network marketing industry by defining the gray. And I think as long as there's an ocean of gray, problem companies can make the argument that they're okay. And you know, if you shoot at them, you could potentially be shooting at a lot of people. There can be collateral damage, and so it's tough. This Bill Ackman thing with Herbalife has shaken people up, and it is leading to a conversation as far as what needs to happen in this space. That conversation eventually will reach the FTC level, potentially the congressional level, and we'll see what shakes out of it. The industry is going to be here for a long time. I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I do think that a little bit of clarity could be good. Too much clarity could be devastating, or too much clarity is the wrong way of putting it. Too much regulation.
Absolutely.
What I obviously heard. So we've got to land somewhere in the middle where it works.
Then that brings me maybe to a controversial subject because you're an attorney. Can we hold our attorneys and our consultants a little bit more responsible then? Instead of attorneys going in, and because I hear this from clients, well, I have so-and-so as my attorney and we're okay. He told me we're okay. We can defend this in court. Should the issue be to defend something in court or make sure a company is legit straight out of the gate, as legit as they can be within that black area instead of the gray or the red?
No, I'm glad you asked that. Especially attorneys in this space, and I'll reference my competitors. Their names get mentioned a lot, as well as myself.
Sure.
Jeffrey Babner, Kevin Grimes, Spencer Reese, Jerry Nira, who's a very kind man, by the way. I love Jerry.
He's a great guy.
And Richard Walk. For you at home, I'm going to be candid. If somebody says, "Hey, we're clean because we have Spencer Reese," or "We're clean because we have Kevin Thompson," the clients that are saying that, they're saying it without authority.
Good to know.
Period. I don't let my clients make those kind of claims and use my credibility to build their business. Because here's the thing, the model that we see on paper as lawyers, and we give them information as far as how to make it better and ways to mitigate their risk. But the model that we see on paper is not always the model that gets executed.
Right.
And it might not be the same model a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So that's why me personally, I don't let clients say, "Kevin's our lawyer, and damn it, we're perfect." The bottom line is, I've represented over 200 companies, right? For every 9 companies that are fantastic, there's going to be a company with warts here and there.
Sure.
You just don't know. Plus, let me say this. When I talk with prospective clients, they interview me, really, more than I interview them. I'm not going to really understand their model in a 30-minute phone call.
Right.
They interview me to see if I have the skills that they're looking for to help them out with their business. And then once we dive into the weeds and we do the legal review and the legal analysis, then I'm in a position to give them some advice after they've retained me.
Okay, that makes sense.
And once I've been retained, I'm not going to obviously go on air and talk about a client's business.
Right.
Now you also mentioned about...
But you do guide them.
Yeah, well, definitely give them the advice.
Try to get rid of the warts or whatever the case is.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sometimes they drink the water and sometimes they don't.
I understand.
And you've seen it with a bunch of my clients, by the way. You know when I'm retained, you can pretty much expect to see changes within a month.
Sure.
And you've seen that. We're not going to reference any names.
He's not, but...
Yeah, but you will later. Now, as far as like going to court on behalf of clients, it usually doesn't come to that.
But let's talk about that too, because you mentioned earlier, you have a litigator in your office. Most MLM attorneys aren't both. They're not MLM corporate attorneys and litigators. So if there is a litigation that goes into play, you're still going to have to hire a different law firm in some cases that litigate issues. Is that not correct?
Well, no, our firm handles litigation.
Yours do now?
Yeah, it does now. Okay. In most cases, my practice in the past, we would refer it out. And the thing is that most litigators, they don't understand the industry.
Right.
And so the litigator that we've got, he's seen some weird issues already. And my goal is to make him one of the top experts when it comes to MLM litigation on behalf of companies. The perfect business for our firm in a litigation matter is obviously you want to represent a client that you're comfortable going the distance with.
Right.
And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes the client might have some warts they don't want out there in public litigation. Yeah. And we advise accordingly on that. Like, look, you might not want to pursue this person because they're causing a little bit of pain, but it's going to draw your model into public scrutiny. And even a company like Herbalife, if Herbalife can be made to look like a pyramid,
yeah,
damn near most companies can be made to look like a pyramid, if under the wrong lens.
Well, that's it, and everybody's got their own focus. So, I mean, if it's a regulator A regulator's not there to say, oh, what a great company, that's just wonderful. They're there to get under the hood, and if there's any issues at all, bring those to the surface. And if there are issues that were blatantly done on purpose, they're going to put that company out of business.
Well, in litigation, if it's in a state court or federal court, the regulators have access to that information, right? It's out there. It's part of the public domain. So that's always something to think about.
That's a tough one. You mentioned doing things with companies early on in your career. You started out really, you'd work with distributors, you'd work with companies. As you've matured in that practice, you guys really now focus on with companies more than you do with actual annual or average distributors. Is that correct?
Yeah, I help distributors when I can on the phone, because every now and then I'll get a call from somebody who's been terminated, and the reality is it just puts our firm at a conflict with companies.
Sure.
Plus, to really represent the distributor zealously, you've got to be willing to go the distance. You've got to be willing to say, to go for a company's throat.
Right.
And to do that, you might create bad precedents for the industry. And so I don't think my competitors represent distributors either. Sometimes I'll take a distributor matter if it's just a blatant violation and the company that they have a problem with is not a client.
Right.
And if I'm comfortable punching that company, then I'll take it.